Hey guys, Chad Trofgerman here. Today I'm going to go over some basics for Actionscript 2.0 in Adobe Flash. Now, Actionscript, if you are unaware, is the scripting language used in Flash to create interactive stuff in your Flash files. For instance, let's say you have a movie that you've just created and you want to create a scene selection so people can go ahead and select different scenes throughout the movie, kind of like a DVD menu. You can easily do that with some simple action scripting. Or let's say you want to create a game that you'll be distributing online. Again, action scripting will be coming in handy there as well. So today I'm going to go ahead and go over just the basics, the very, very basics of ActionScript, so you can kind of get a handle of it and so you can kind of start to build a foundation on that. And again, I'm teaching 2.0 in this lesson and not 3.0. 3.0 is the newer version, and it also has a bunch of more advanced stuff in it. So we will be focusing on the basics of 2.0. So with that said, let's begin. On your splash screen, you'll see that you have a column that says Create New, and you have a bunch of different options here to do so. We are going to want to create an ActionScript 2.0 Flash file, so the second option on the list. So go ahead and click that, and you will have your new document made. Now you can apply ActionScript to timelines, to symbols, and so on. But to start with, I'm going to focus on applying ActionScript to a basic button. So I am going to create a button in which we can then put ActionScript to it. So I'm simply going to go over here to my Shape tool and select the Oval tool, like that. And the fill and stroke really don't matter for this, so just go ahead and pick a color of stroke and fill that you think looks nice. It really doesn't matter for this demonstration. And we are going to come over here to the stage, click, hold, and drag, and create a circle, just like that. Now, in order to apply ActionScript to this object, we are going to have to make it a symbol. So I'm going to come over here to my selection tool and select that, and then come back here, click, hold, and drag, and then create a selection area around this circle. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit F8 since it is selected now. And I'm going to go ahead and name it button. And the type will also be button. And if you would like a refresher course on symbols in general, you can check out my Introduction to Symbols tutorial that I also have on the website. So with that, we are going to go ahead and click OK. So now we have our symbol ready to go for our button. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to open up the ActionScript window so we can place code on this symbol so that we can make it interactive. So I am going to go up to Window and then go down to Actions. And now a new window will pop up. And it actually seems kind of confusing at first because there's a lot of information on here, but I will try to kind of break this down. The first thing we have here, if you look up at the drop-down menu, it says ActionScript 1.0 and 2.0, which is correct because, as you remember, we created an ActionScript 2.0 file. ActionScript 3.0 and 2.0 actually don't mix. So if you created a 3.0 file, you wouldn't be able to use 2.0 action scripting in it, and vice versa, just so you are aware of that. Now, if you are completely used to coding, you can go right over to this window right here and just start typing away and coding whatever you need to code. However, Flash does make this process a bit easier, in which you can look at the predefined commands you have here in this window and double click on them and place them in this window, and then go ahead and add your variables in then. And Flash, newer versions of Flash take this even a step further with the Script Assist option. Script Assist allows you to it actually basically assists you in scripting your action script. And when you have Script Assist on, you don't have as many options to work with as opposed to when you have it off. And again, that's just to kind of help you when you're getting started in action scripting and you're just kind of going through the basics. So for this tutorial, I'm actually going to turn it on. That way, it'll help you in visualizing this as I go through this. And so if you're following along with this tutorial, I advise that you just turn it on just for now until you get used to action scripting. So let's go ahead and apply some ActionScript to this button now. We have Script Assist on, and we have these options over here to help us in our task of applying ActionScript. So let's go ahead and do something really simple. I am going to go ahead and double click on the Get URL variable right here that is located under the Browser Network category in the section here. So if it's closed like this, all you have to do is go ahead and click Browser Network, and you'll get the Get URL option right there. Now, what Get URL does, and again, these functions are going to have to be something that you learn as you go through ActionScript. But Get URL is pretty understandable in that it will go ahead and grab a URL off the internet when a specific command is met with this symbol. So let's go ahead and double click on it. And with Script Assist on, you'll see that we have already some stuff in place here. It says on release, get URL. And basically what this means right now is on release of the mouse button on this symbol, it will go ahead and grab a URL from the internet. So we can tweak this though with Script Assist on. For instance, if we go up here and click on release, you'll see that we have some event choices that we can choose from. For instance, we could have it say on rollover, go ahead and get the URL, which means if we just simply roll our mouse cursor over the button, the URL will prop up in a new browser as opposed to on release. Or you could do a combination of them. You could go on press and on rollover, go ahead and grab that URL. Now, I don't think that would be something you'd want to do because that'd be kind of redundant, but again, that's just something you can mess around with when it comes to Script Assist. And see, if you don't have Script Assist on, I'll just go ahead and take it off really quick, then as you can see, you have none of that helpful stuff, and you'll actually have to go ahead and type this all out. An ActionScript, like most coding, is very meticulous about how you input stuff. So if you have one character off on one of your commands, it will break the code. So again, that's why I say for the time being, having Script Assist on is probably a good thing until you get used to all this. So anyway, let's turn Script Assist back on, and let's just go ahead and uncheck rollover and press, and let's just go to release for right now. So on release, we're going to go down here and click the Get URL thing, and now you'll see that we have some new options on that screen above. We can type in a URL, and we can also command if it opens in a new window or a window in the browser itself, and so on. But I will show you all that in a second. For right now, let's go ahead and input a URL for this demonstration. And it can be any website that you want. Just be sure you include the http:// when doing it, or else it might not work. So I'm going to go ahead and go http:// and now type in your URL. For instance, I'll just type in, well, my website, incredible-tutorials.com. And then I'm going to go down here to Window, and if you have it set to self, it will. If you have your browser open to a website, and you set this to self, the page will load in that browser window. If you set it to blank, it will open up a new browser window, so the user doesn't leave the website or it doesn't get rid of their website that they currently have open. Parent is pretty much the same as self. And top, to be honest, I really don't ever use that one. So I actually really don't know what it's for. But these three, I know what they are for. And so for this right now, I'm just going to go ahead and put self. And variables, we don't have to send any variables. So just go ahead and leave that where it is, and we'll just have it at don't send. Now let's go ahead and test this out and see if it works. So I'm going to come over here and go up to Control, Test Movie. And now you'll see that we have our test file right here. However, the action script that you put in should be fully functional even when you're testing this. So if you go down here to your button, you'll notice that the cursor changes to a clickable cursor icon. And if we go ahead and click and then release, our browser should launch, internet browser, whichever one you use, and then the website should pop up that we just put in, which it did. And there you go. So let's go ahead and go back to Flash and close out of that. If it didn't work for you, just be sure you look at the URL and be sure you put the URL in right. And be sure that the code structure looks like mine with the brackets and everything. And again, it should be really easy with Script Assist because it pretty much does all the hard work for you. Now let's go ahead and just try some different things with this get URL command. For instance, as I was showing you, just to test this, let's go back to the onRelease command, and let's go ahead and check off the onRelease event, and let's go ahead and try a key press. So if we come down here to key press and click that, let's enter a key that we can input that will actually launch the website. So let's go ahead and type in K, just for the heck of it. So we type in K, and I'm just going to go ahead and quit my browser here, just to make sure. And now we're going to go ahead and Control Test Movie again, and let's just see if this works. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the K key. And sure enough, right when you hit the K key, it launches Flash. And as you can see, there are some benefits to this. While this is just simple stuff, you can see how you could input keys to move characters, for instance, in a video game, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and just close out of this, and let's go back to some more action scripting stuff here that we can do. Okay, let's just go ahead and click back on the symbol so we can get our action script back. Now, along with being able to grab URLs, you can also grab points within your movie to go to. And again, as I was saying, this works well if you are using a scene selection, or let's say for instance you're doing an interactive movie and you want to give the user choices for the character to do, like for instance go to sleep or run away, and then that will prompt different scenes to come up to where the character will then do that. So we can do that very easily with the timeline control functions with Actionscript 2.0. So let's take a look at those. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete the Actionscript here that we just got done doing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the first line and hit delete just to get rid of it all completely. Now, if we go over to timeline control under the global functions and click that, you'll see that we have some new things that we can work with here. I am going to go ahead and double click on the go to function right here. So double click that, and then again this should look really similar to what we just did. The on release is there. The only real difference is you have that go to and play command instead of the get URL command. However, it's still pretty much the same because you have the parentheses with the variable inside to which the command will access. Basically what this code says right now is on release of your mouse button, the button will then play the first frame on the timeline. That's what that 1 stands for. And this is easy to dissect if you look up here, because it'll tell you right here. We have it set to frame 1, and we have it set to the current scene, and we have it set to go to and play. We also have the ability to go to and stop. So those two things are important to note because if you want the movie to go somewhere and not play, but to freeze frame, you would want to use the go to and stop command. Before I get into this, I do want to go over another command before we get too far, because this command is also very important when you are doing stuff like go to and play. And that is the stop command located right here. The stop command, basically, it's pretty self-explanatory. It stops playing the movie, as it says right here on my little tag right there. And this is important because, for instance, let's say we want to command this button to, if we say, okay, when I release this button, I want it to go to this point in the movie and then play. Well, if we don't have a stop command in the timeline itself, then it's going to play anyway. Because you see, when you test a movie, it goes through the timeline no matter what, and nothing prevents it from happening. So if we say on this button, when we click this, we want to play frame 45. Well, the problem is, when you play the movie, the timeline is going to go and play 45 eventually anyway. So the stop command stops the movie from playing entirely. So we could enter a stop command on frame 1, and then we could prompt the button then to say, okay, when you click it, please play frame 45. And in that instance, it would make sense. So let's go ahead and let's place a stop command in the timeline right now. So I'm going to go ahead and come down here and make a new layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and just name the layer Action. And hit return. And then I'm going to select the first frame on that timeline, on that layer, and I'm going to double click stop. And then you can see the command right there. It's pretty simple. Now if you come down here and look at your timeline, you'll see that there is an A and like a circle underneath it. That indicates that there is an action placed on this frame. Something to keep in mind. Now let's go ahead and put this all together. Now let's go to scene 45. Frame 45. And let's go ahead and create a new layer, just like this. And on that new layer, I'm going to go ahead and right click on frame 45, and I'm going to insert a keyframe. Now keyframe equals change, so keep that in mind. That's what a keyframe is. It's a change in the timeline. I'm going to come down here to layer 1, and I'm going to right click, and I'm just going to insert a frame to extend this button all the way out to 45 frames. That's all that's there for. Now, on frame 45, I'm simply going to go ahead and draw something on the stage. So that way, when we test this, we will know it worked. So I'm just going to kind of go ahead and move my Actionscript window aside here for a second so we have some room to work. And I'm going to come over here to my shape tool, and I'm just going to grab a rectangle really quick with the rectangle tool. And I'm just going to go ahead and change the color to, let's just change it to orange in my properties box. Again, that doesn't really matter. This is just for demonstration purposes, so choose whatever colors you want. And I'm going to go ahead and simply draw the square right here. So now, move my window over here again. If we come back here to the timeline, and if we go to frame 1, you'll notice that the square is not there. At frame 45, it is there. Now, I'm going to click on my button and bring up my Actionscript here again. Just going to take my window out here. So we click on the button, we have our Actionscript window up, and we are now going to input the code. On release, go to and play frame 45. So basically, just to recap, so no one gets lost here, I have a stop command on frame 1. That means when the movie plays, it won't go anywhere past frame 1. It is stuck on frame 1. The button is on frame 1, and it has an ActionScript command to go to and play frame 45 when you release your mouse button from it. And on frame 45, we have the square. And that is that. So let's go ahead and test this to see if when we click it, if the square appears on the screen. So we go to Control, Test Movie, and we go ahead and release this. You will see that it slightly appears. But what happened? You'll notice when I click it, it slightly appears for a second and then goes away. Well, this is because when we go to and play frame 45, it plays but then it loops back to frame 1, which nothing is on, because I didn't extend the timeline out past frame 45. So this is where the go to and stop command comes in. So if we just go ahead and exit out of this, and we go ahead and click on our button and come back here, and we click this, we're going to select go to and stop. So this will indicate that we will go to and stop on frame 45 instead of playing. So let's go ahead and try that now. If we go to Control, Test Movie, and then we go ahead and click this, it stays. That's because when I clicked it, the action indicated that the movie would go to frame 45 and stop as opposed to play. Because again, Flash movies loop, and if you go, they loop unless if you indicate them not to loop, which we didn't do here. And if we have go to and play on, it goes and plays and then snaps back to the beginning and stops because we have that stop command there. Now, we could use go to and play if we also had a stop command like this one right there. But again, it really depends on what you want to do. Go to and stop works just as good as the stop command itself. Now, for the final portion of this tutorial, we are going to apply what we've learned here and kind of put it to some more practical use. I'm actually going to go ahead and create a makeshift scene selection menu so we can kind of see all of this in action. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of what I just did here actually. So I'm just simply going to go ahead and select my top layer, and then I'm going to come down here and hit the trash can, and then hit the trash can again. So I only have my layer 1, and I'm going to just use my selection tool and highlight this circle, and I'm just going to delete that. So now I'm going to just take my ActionScript and kind of just tuck it down here for right now. And now I'm going to try to get my timeline back. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add some text here. So I'm going to go ahead and select my text tool and just kind of wait for this to load. There we go. And I'm going to just enter in scene selection at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and just move that over so we kind of have a title here. And I'm not going to make this too pretty. Again, it's just kind of for demonstration purposes. And I'm also going to come down here to my timeline and select frame 2, hold in Shift, select frame 45. I'm going to right click and remove the frames. So that way we only have one frame for this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer by clicking that right there. And I'm simply going to go ahead and take my text tool, put it on the stage, and I'm going to write out scene 1. And I'm just going to go ahead and click off. Now, for the scene 1, I'm going to hit F8 with it selected, and I'm going to create a new symbol and name this scene 1 button. If I could type, there we go. And make sure it is a button for type, and then click OK. Now I'm going to go ahead and click that button, and then hold in my Command key and hit C, or Control C if you're on a PC, and then I'm going to go Command V or Control V if you are on a PC. That will copy and cut respectfully. And I'm going to take this copied button and place it right about here. And I'm going to right click, and I'm going to duplicate the symbol, and I'm going to name this one Scene 2 button, and then click OK. And I'm going to double click and go into the button, and I'm going to erase the 1 and make it 2, and then go out. And now I'm going to go ahead and repeat this process for 2 more scenes. So I'm going to take my selection tool, and I'm going to select Scene 2, Command C, Command V, come down here and just place it right here. Right click, duplicate symbol, and I'm going to erase the copy, and I'm going to name it Scene 3 button, and click OK. And I'm going to double click and get rid of the 2 and name that 3. And then I'm simply going to do this one more time. C, V, down like that. Right click, duplicate symbol, Scene 4 button, double click, and there we go. Now, of course, this is very basic. It's not very attractive at all. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. You can go ahead and animate your buttons if you'd like to and all that kind of stuff. And again, I kind of go over that in my introduction to Cymbals tutorial if you're kind of interested in how to make a button actually work graphically, that is. So anyway, we got this down. Now I'm going to introduce you to scenes. Scenes are basically new pages in a Flash document. They're really great for organizing, as well as just kind of keeping a good pace when it comes to your work, basically. Actually, a lot of Flash animators don't like scenes for some reason. However, I find them to be very useful, especially for the kind of work I do, which is animating cartoons and stuff like that. So, with that, I'm going to come over here to the Scene panel, and you'll see that right now we have one scene here. I'm going to come down here to the New Scene button, or the Add Scene button, I should say, and click that. Once we do that, you will see that we have a new page. I'm going to do a little editing here as well, just so we don't get confused. I'm going to come back here to Scene 1, and as you see, when we go to Scene 1, all of our stuff is back. And I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to rename this Menu, just so we kind of get this in our head. And then I'm going to come down here to Scene 1 and rename this Scene 1. I'm going to go ahead and click off. Now, this is going to be the scene that we link to the Scene 1 button when we click it. So, what I'm going to do is go to the Scene 1, and I'm going to go ahead and add a stop command in here. That way, it doesn't go anywhere. And I should also mention that as well, now that I think about it. Whenever you have a movie, it will, as I was demonstrating to you before, it will play through the timeline if you have no stop command. Once a scene reaches the end of the frames in its timeline, it will automatically go to the next scene in sequence. So, that's something to keep in mind as well. So, I'm going to also place a stop command in the menu itself. So, I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer in the menu, and I'm going to click that frame, and I'm going to come down to my Actions window right here. Oops, it's actually located. Get it up here. There we go. Windows sometimes hard to mess with. Okay, go to my timeline, and I'm going to have frame 1 selected, and I'm going to go ahead and enter the stop command. That way, when we play this scene, it won't go to the next scene right away, even though we have no frames here. So with that, I'm also going to go to scene 1 and also enter a stop command so that when we go to this scene, it doesn't go to the next scene right away. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the stop command right there. There we go. We are now back on track. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and try to move my actions window around here again. Ugh, that's not what I want. Okay, I'll just leave it like that for right now. It's kind of always in the way. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just indicate, I'm just going to put something on this scene to indicate that it's scene 1 so that we know it's working. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take the shape tool and I'm going to select a color here. I'll select red, that's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and take my rectangle tool, click, hold, and drag, and just create a red rectangle there. And actually, I should move this on its own layer. And if this ever happens, as you can see, I have the action in the square on the same layer, which isn't a big deal, but I like to keep things organized. All you have to do is click your object. All you have to do is go to Command X or Control X to cut it, and then just go up to the second layer and then paste it back. Just like that. Anyway, now I'm going to go and make a new layer and label this Scene 1 with my text tool, and then I'm going to go ahead and make the color yellow just so it's something we can see, and I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger with the size tool, and then I'll just place it right there. Okay, now if we come to the scene inspection panel, we can actually duplicate scenes so we don't have to redo stuff over and over again. We can just go ahead and make slight tweaks to it. So with scene 1 selected, I'm going to come down here to the duplicate scene icon and click that, and then I'm going to go ahead and rename this new scene to scene 2. And as you can see, they're identical, and so we have the stop command already in place and everything, so we don't have to mess with that. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to click the color of the square. I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to color it something like blue, and then I'm going to rename this to scene 2, and then I'm just going to color the text there differently as well, just so it's kind of ugly with all the colors I'm using here, but oh well, it's just for demonstration purposes. And I'm going to go ahead and do this 2 more times for the other 2 scenes for our menu. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this scene, double click, and name it scene 3. I'm just going to change the color of the background really quick to something like this. And then I'm just going to go ahead and name this scene 3, and I will color it something like that. And then one more time. Duplicate, rename, recolor, rename, and recolor. Okay, so now if we come back to our menu scene, we are going to go ahead and enter the action script so each of these scenes go to the corresponding scenes in our scene inspection. So we're going to go ahead and click scene 1, and I'm going to bring up my actions panel here like this, and then with script assist on, we are going to do the go to command in the time control inspector. Just double click that, and now we're going to leave it on release, and we are going to go ahead and we are going to go to scene on the top here, and we are going to indicate scene 1. That way it will go to scene 1 in our scene inspection right here. And playing on frame 1 is what we want because we only have 1 frame. So let's go ahead and test this to make sure it worked. Just go to Control, Test Movie, and I'm going to go ahead and just click it. And there we go. It goes to scene 1. Let's go ahead and click off here. And now we're going to go ahead and do the similar steps for each of the other scenes. So we're going to go ahead and go to Scene 2, double click the Go To command, go to Scene 2, and the frame number is good. Same here, go to Scene 3, go to Scene 4. Now let's go ahead and Control and Test Movie. And if we go ahead and click that, we go to Scene 1, click that, go to Scene 2. As you can see, the thing here is when I go to the scenes, I have no way of going back to the menu, which we can actually add a menu button if we wanted to go back to the menu. So we go to Test Movie, we go to Scene 3, Scene 4. So, if you want to take this a step further, you could go to each of these scenes and you could add a button right down here, or anywhere really, that takes you back to the menu. And it would just be the same simple process. You would go ahead and you would go to the scene selection here and you would just select menu for that when you have your button down there. And then you would have a pretty full functioning working menu. And again, I know this is pretty simple. I haven't really done a whole lot with the art here, but that's up for you guys to work with when you guys get started in your movies or your games or whatever you guys will be creating. And with that, I think that ends this tutorial. Again, action scripting, it can be very time consuming and it can be very overwhelming. But I think the steps I outlined here should get you kind of started and kind of thinking about how it works and where it can be applied in your movies. I'll probably do more ActionScript tutorials as we go along, but I hope these basics have helped you in understanding ActionScript. If you'd like to see more tutorials, perhaps on cymbals, which I did a lot of cymbal work here, you can go to my website, IncredibleFlashTutorials.com, and check those out. If you have ideas for tutorials that you would like me to cover, go ahead and contact me. And yeah, I hope you guys found this helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.